Hello and welcome to Swadesh Magnet. Today we start our series on Indian history and begin with a very important moment called the Siege of Arcot 1751. Let's begin. Our story begins in 1751, at which point Mughal Empire was on the wane and there was a general decline in the central control over the empire. Nizam-ul-Mulk declared Hyderabad as independent kingdom and also exercised control over whole of South India, including Carnatic. Carnatic was the lowland tract between Deccan Plateau and Bay of Bengal and was a region of immense importance for both British East India Company and the French East India Company. Before we go further, it is important to get a little background on Europe. Around mid-1700s, Europe was also going through years of political upheaval. War of Austrian Succession from 1740 to 48 involved all major powers of Europe, including the British and the French. This led to a cascading effect and war in other places of the world, including India. The wars fought between French and the British in southern part of India during that time are collectively called as the Carnatic Wars. The two key figures and principal architects of growth of French and British interest in India were Joseph-Francois Dupleix, the French Governor-General, and Robert Clive, who at that time was a young officer in British East India Company. The background for Siege of Arcot were the numerous succession wars fought in this region due to the death of Nizam-ul-Mulk in 1748. French and the British found this as an ideal opportunity to interfere and take sides, to gain economic and political foothold in India. The succession battle for the title of Nawab of Arcot led to Governor-General Dupleix siding with Chanda Sahib, who had assumed the title of Nawab of Arcot. Chanda Sahib commanded a huge force of 11,000 Indian soldiers and was well supported by well-trained European French troops and highly experienced French artillery. The British, on the other hand, had a much smaller presence. At that time, their interests were largely trade and were reluctant to raise and train large troops. However, with increased expansion of French and with the intent of maintaining presence in Carnatic region, they supported Muhammad Ali Khan Walaja, Nawab of Tanjore. Robert Clive's force comprised of 200 British and 300 British India sepoys and had a grand total of 3 guns of their own. In July 1751, Chanda Sahib, Nawab of Arcot, led a force of 8,000 native and 400 French troops to lay siege of Trichinopoly. Trichinopoly was capital of Tanjore under Muhammad Ali Khan Walaja. The British responded by sending reinforcements from nearby Fort St. David under Robert Clive. However, these attempts proved to be unsuccessful due to much larger troop formations of Chanda Sahib. Robert Clive realized that they were in a disastrous position in Trichinopoly, and a defeat would mean losing the last bastion of support in Carnatic. Robert Clive proposed a daring diversionary attack on Chanda Sahib's capital Arcot. Considering the importance of this event, British Governor-General Robert Saunders supported it and put him in command of the entire force available in Fort St. David and Madras of 200 British soldiers, 300 sepoys, and 3 guns. On 26 August 1751, Clive marched with his troops towards Arcot and within 5 days was 10 miles short of Arcot. Due to the surprise nature of attack, Arcot was found unfortified. Clive's troops quickly advanced to take over the fort. The untrained native soldiers protecting Arcot quickly abandoned the fort and left the town, allowing Clive's men to easily capture the fort without any resistance and also got more guns left by fleeing troops. The news of capture of Arcot came as a big shock to Chanda Sahib, and he immediately dispatched his son Raza Sahib to retake Arcot. On 23rd April 1751, Raza Sahib arrived with 4,000 native and 100 French troops, and a few days later reinforced it with 11,000 native and 150 French troops, and its guns also started arriving, leading to what is now famously called as Siege of Arcot. With the arrival of guns, Raza Sahib wasted no time and wanted to quickly take over Arcot as soon as possible and started heavy bombardment. This led to heavy structural damage to the fort. Much stronger firepower of Raza Sahib was starting to take its effect and led to loss of life among British troops. However, Clive was not ready to give up, despite the obvious disadvantage, and shot back with his own guns and troops. The fight between the two forces was intense, and both sides were not ready to give up. On 30th October 1751, with heavy bombardment, a clear breach had been created in the walls of the fort. The defense of the fort was now virtually untenable, and defeat for Robert Clive was inevitable. In accordance with convention, Raza Sahib invited Clive to surrender. To his surprise again, Robert Clive refused to surrender. A shocked Raza Sahib decided to wait it out, trying to starve the troops instead of investing more of his forces to a bloody fight. Considering high stakes involved, Governor General Saunders hatched a plan to negotiate with Marathas. Marathas were a well-trained unit and were quickly becoming a dominant force in the region with the weakening of Mughals. The news of Maratha forces led by Murari Rao entering the battle changed the dynamics of the siege completely. Raza Sahib was in no position to take on British and Marathas together. He quickly ordered his troops to an outright attack upon the fort and pressed every available resource to his final attack. The final attack was planned on 14th November 1751. Intense firing saw heavy casualties on both sides, something Raza Sahib was trying to avoid at his side at all costs. He finally decided to employ the mighty elephants to the attack as make or break move. The elephant troops were commonly used in those days and had a potential of causing heavy damage, and with the open breach in the walls, it could have won the battle on its own. However, they had one key weakness that Clive exploited. He concentrated his entire firepower on these elephants, leading to panic, and this panic led to them running backwards, trampling accompanying soldiers to death. The resultant loss of life, panic and fear led to native forces melting back into town, never to return. Following day, Raza Sahib marched away with his men, never to return, leading to an embarrassing defeat for Chanda Sahib and French in this region, and takeover of Arcot by the British. The impact of Siege of Arcot was far-reaching for everyone involved. British went on to becoming a dominant force in India, leaving other European forces far behind. The French had a string of defeats later on, leading to eventual exit from India. The victory also marked the rise of Robert Clive, who went on to become the first governor of Bengal Presidency, and he, along with Warren Hastings, are considered as key figures in laying the foundation for what is known as British Raj. Hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll be back soon with more stories from Indian history. Until then, thank you and goodbye.